Hello and welcome to A Damn Fine Cup of Coffee. I'm Nick.
I'm Scott, and I actually have coffee right now.
I don't, and I'm okay with that.
It's been long enough that I don't actually remember coming up with a name
A name for what?
for the podcast. Like when we derived A Damn Fine Cup of Coffee.
I can't really remember either. Other than
I'm gonna
I think
guess
it had something to do with what's that scene
Coffee?
from? Is that from the Twin Peaks or something? Or
it's an approximation. I don't think anyone actually says a damn fine cup of coffee. Or maybe they do. I don't know. We'll have to look it up later. Either way, last time we spoke on the very contentious and philosophical issue of what is the purpose of government cheese.
government cheese, the history behind the Philly cheesesteak, and a little bit about what was it? About easy cheese.
So I figure the best way to kind of cleanse the palate is to have a simple discussion about the non-controversial issue of what is art, and is hand-drawn drawings of a Cthulhu-like lazy cat considered art?
Yeah, interesting question, honestly. Scott, more precisely, introduced me to a subreddit on Reddit, as that's where subreddits are, called...
I found it on a subreddit on Tumblr, which was also on the CBC website.
Wait, hold up, what?
No, I'm kidding.
First off, there are no subreddits on Tumblr. We're nesting. I mean, well, if you were if you argue, like, you know how they like sometimes embed Twitter streams into websites?
Yeah.
You could say that you saw a tweet on the CBC website if like they had their Twitter stream embedded into the webpage.
Oh, that is true.
I saw a tweet embedded into Tumblr, embedded into the CBC website, embedded into a subreddit, which was then further embedded onto a Tumblr.
But yeah, no, I think that approximately 31 hours ago, maybe.
Yeah.
I asked you if you were familiar. So you have had about 31 hours with the subject at hand. Is it art?
Well, I see. My gut says I have a number of conflicting feelings. My initial thought, from just like the outset, my knee-jerk reaction is I'm like, man, that's a good meme. But like my gut doesn't really, like, my knee-jerk reaction doesn't really be like, oh, this is art. But then I realized the vast amount of effort that's gone into this. I kind of question. I'm like, should it actually count as art? And my secondary thought, beyond the knee-jerk, says, yeah, it should be, because art can be made for an innumerable amount of reasons and from an innumerable amount of motivators. Some of them serious and others of them just fucking weird. I mean...
Do you think it would be fair to say that all memes are art, but not all art is memes?
Sometimes yeah, I could see that, because there's part of me questions, I'm like, maybe all along, art has kind of just been memes.
Yeah, I mean, if art is deemed successful, like, it's certainly propagated. Like, a meme doesn't necessarily have to be propagated for the intent of humor. That's just what we tend to have. But like, arguably, the Mona Lisa is everywhere. It is a surviving idea in the collective unconscious. So it is certainly mimetic in a sense, but more in like the Richard Dawkins sense.
And I've kind of wondered if even in like the more modern sense of some kind of like a relatable image or something like that, or an image that expresses a concept that you may find relatable, or you might be able, or you may find, interesting or intriguing in a certain way. Because I'm trying to think. I had a thing a moment ago. Well, I mean, the first, in terms of content, as a limiting factor. I can kind of eliminate that one because I mean Mozart literally wrote a song ages ago. Well, whenever Mozart was around, called "Lick Me in the Ass." I am not joking about that. Google it, and it sounds like your typical like classical music with like what's it? It's like a rounds, I think is the term, where you have voices that's continuously join in. You have one person start singing and then another until you have like a harmony built up. But it's like if you consider the weird stuff that other like artists, the people that most people would consider artists make, I'm like, why would that exclude this?
I listened to that on my break today, and I was very amused that it begun with a chorus of a bunch of German people just saying "Leg mich im Arsch."
Yes, exactly.
Apparently, though, it is more like "kiss my ass." Like that. That's the idiom, the idiomatic translation, but the literal translation is amusing. And
Shakespeare's all dick jokes too.
Well, content absolutely. Like a good art can be a urinal, apparently. Which when I was trying to look up aesthetics and the philosophy of art, that was a very common thing because it's like, what is it? Like it's just a urinal, but it's called art. It's in an art museum. Like it was created with an intent. Which maybe that is the essence of art. Like, you wouldn't call a beautiful sunset art.
Yeah, I mean, you might call a photograph of one art, but you wouldn't call the vision of it from your perspective. That's a question. Does that mean that it needs to be like conjured by a human to some degree?
But then where's the line? Because like I've got. You and I have the same desk, so we can obviously talk about this. It is a human-made creation. It was intentionally created, but like I wouldn't call it artistic.
Yeah, but you could.
But
we could like. I'm just thinking, could you like build that definition up so we have like one thing we can agree on? We're like, okay. It probably needs to be made by people, for like intentionally made by people, or actually sometimes not even intentionally now that I think about it. So maybe made by people is at least one facet of it.
Yeah.
Which is really fucking general, but
if your intent is art, like that, like again, the urinal is art because it was intended to be art. But like if you and I put this desk in a museum and we labeled it like modern life, we'd be like edgy, postmodern, whatever they're calling us nowadays, trying to like bring Western civilization down or something by critiquing the zeitgeist, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of what Peterson would say. Which is the only time I'm ever going to say that sentence.
Yeah. Let's keep.
We'll do a separate episode on that.
Oh God, let's keep Von Kermit out of here.
But no,
it's an insult to Kermit.
It really is.
But anyways,
Jim Henson had talent.
Oh, actually, like, we'll stay on this topic just to avoid too much. But have you seen like Jim Henson's work on the Wilkins coffee ads?
Yes.
It's fucking terrifying. Wait, have you been following the history I've been using on the channel?
No, I also follow Defunct TV.
Oh yeah.
So I watched all the Sesame Street Jim Henson stuff.
It's terrifying. It's just like Proto Kermit just kills people for not drinking this coffee.
Now, so is a commercial art then? Was that commercial a piece of art?
I feel like I would say, because I'm very like loose with the term, I would say yes, because like you're still my general thought is like trying to convey a message or convey an idea of some kind. And yes,
Right.
no idea at all still kind of counts, because if you're trying to be edgy and be like, well, there's no idea behind this art, voila. And I'm like, but that's still kind of counting on it. So yes.
I mean, yeah, maybe
Intentional.
like
I feel like intentional absence of something is still an idea.
well, probably because like even in like what we classically think of as art, lack of sound, lack of light, are all elements of an art piece.
Yeah.
Or at least they can be.
But yeah, like that, I would probably consider it that, because it's still just, communicating an idea, a message. Albeit it's buy our coffee or you die. But I mean,
well, yeah, but what about like a technical manual? It's conveying information.
I mean, I could probably still classify that in the area, and it's very strange because like some will consider like the phrase, you'll often hear the phrase of referring to like a skill in something or like working on something as the art of insert whatever here.
Yeah.
So you could say there's an art to making manuals.
Well, okay, so I'm glad that got brought up, because what I've been doing lately is if I'm exploring just a general topic, I look up the etymology of the word to try to get like a more base understanding. So art, noun, early 13th century, skill as a result of learned practice, from the Old French art, 10th century, from Latin artum, work of art, practical skill, a business, craft, from the Proto-Indo-European, I don't know how to pronounce that. Source also of, so in Sanskrit, the equivalent to art comes from manner, mode. In Greek, it comes from to prepare, with the suffix "ar," to fit together, which is why, like, how armaments became like weapons, that it came from that, or that came from "ar." In Middle English, usually a sense of skill and scholarship in something, especially of the seven sciences or the liberal arts. This sense remains in Bachelor of Arts. Human workmanship, as opposed to nature workmanship, which I guess is an oxymoron. So art as a word really does kind of necessarily involve human skill, human interaction of some sort.
Like the product of human workings.
Yeah, which degree. obviously classically what we think of as art, song, painting, sculpture, whatever, is necessarily human derived, human constructed. And I was gonna go down a rabbit hole about, well, what if like some computer algorithm did something, but then like humans created the algorithm, so like I guess that really does avoid that issue,
because it's still a product of human skill. Yeah. And then the question though is, at what point does suppose we do one day make a, by all measures, sentient artificial life form that produces works of art. Yeah. Does that belong to the person who initially created the sentient, or the robot, I guess, or would that belong then to the robot?
I guess it would depend on the degree of sentience, because they ruled that picture taken by that monkey, I don't know, I that sounds vague, but I'm sure like that's a commonly known story.
Isn't that the one with the selfie?
Yeah, the monkey selfie. It was ruled that the guy who owned the camera, the human, did not own the rights to that photo.
It belonged to the monkey.
I think so. I'm gonna Google monkey selfie, because the only other look at that, it's got a whole Wikipedia thing. This fits right into our theme. Monkey selfie copyright dispute is the thing. All right, so all I want is the what came out of it. Well, there's no like clear section saying what happened.
Also,
Rule.
whilst you're reading that, I can also mention I remember how we came up with the title of this thing.
Oh.
It had to do with around the time that the Cheeto in charge down south made the Covfefe typo. And you had the picture that said a damn fine cup of... I read it initially as Covfefe, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I think that just kind of stuck, and we were like, a damn fine cup of coffee.
I vaguely remember writing something, damn fine cup of covfefe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll search my Facebook, because I really feel like I wrote it somewhere. Hold on, there's a small detail in here that I really want to correct, because it will change the outcome of this story entirely.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Scanning. I don't... Come on. I need... The payoff is not going to work if this isn't the case. I could just lie. I don't know where the name would come from. Oh no. Why? Okay, I really gotta control F this.
Are you searching for the monkey's name?
I am searching for the monkey's name. Yes! The monkey's named Naruto!
Holy shit!
So, because there's a section about the lawsuit, and it's Naruto et al. V. David Slater. David Slater is the guy whose camera it was. So I had to make sure that Naruto is the name of the monkey.
Believe it.
It's something.
Did Naruto win?
And no, I don't think so, because it said here, April 2018, the Ninth Circuit denied the motions to vacate the case. On April 23rd, the court issued a ruling in favor of Slater, the human, finding that animals have no legal authority to hold copyright claims. And of course, so PETA was all over, like, wanting to represent the animal.
I mean, it's got some bold move for PETA.
Oh, apparently they also they sued George W. Bush back in 2004 in a case, Cetacean Community v. Bush. So Bush got sued by the whales of the world. Good to know.
Interesting.
I wish there was a section that was like, hey, what are the implications? Because this is now this is probably the first instance of animal rights involving case law, or involving copyright law. So
yeah,
like that, you'd think there'd be some implications.
Mm-hmm. Oh joy!
Interesting. No, so okay, I guess as it currently stands, non-human animals cannot claim copyright, but copyright is a human thing. Art, I don't know if art transcends human invention.
That's a great question.
It's like asking if math is like inherent.
There's a similar conversation about like technology. You could make that that is something that we had in our engineering and society classes. Same concept.
So like, can a chimpanzee copyright a new stick to get termites out, sort of thing?
Or it's more so, is a chimpanzee using a stick to, or is it orangutans?
Probably orangutans, because they're the ones that fish.
Yeah, it would be orangutans. It's like, is an orangutan using a stick to retrieve termites from a mound? Does that is that technology? Was like a question like that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, pardon?
No, you go. I gotta search something.
I was just gonna say, does that count as technology? I argue yes. I had a definition that I've got somewhere logged on this computer, but I think it was something like it basically was like I think it was like the novel like use or development of like it had something to do with like it was like methods, material things that were that allow I think it was like allow you to uh, do things that you would not be able to do without, that are not basically, it's like external to the body, external to that, but it's I had my definition somewhere.
Yeah. So, but if say orangutan, I'm trying to assess the validity of the orangutan spear fishing claim. I'm not finding anything like definitive.
I thought that was
Um,
chimpanzee spearfishing.
no, because there's a picture of an orangutan hanging off a branch in a river,
Oh yeah, it is an
thrusting a
orangutan.
stick. But I don't know. Like it could have been monkey hits water. Maybe he did catch a fish. I don't know. But say a community of orangutan develop the art of spearfishing. You know, like
Mm.
does that then mean if they gained sufficient cognition that they could develop the art of drawing stuff?
Perhaps.
I don't know. It's one of it really it feels like art feels like one of those things that it feels visceral and you know art when you see it, so it like it
Yeah.
must be objective.
I
But
saw,
like upon closer examination, it's just harder to
yeah.
think that.
I know, it's weird because like I sometimes feel like art refers to less so the physical piece and more so the skill embodied therein of what it
Yeah.
represents, or like, you know, idea, like you could make the same argument for things of like thought and such, that like something as simple as like we put a desk in a museum and called it modern life, you could say, yeah, I mean, maybe that didn't take much effort, but
Well,
perhaps the thought
what
behind it and the ideas are, you know, twisting that mundane view or mundane object into something that has significance, could be considered, you
well
know, skill unto itself.
say that I was going to put a piece in an art gallery, but they shipped me the wrong thing. They shipped me the desk you and I both have, and I built it because I'm like, oh, I've got nothing. So I put it out there. Does it become art when I start pulling stuff out of my ass and saying, "Oh, it's empty because work leaves us empty and it's a manifestation"? Does it become art once I've explained it to be art?
That right there is probably the art of deception and improvising. But I mean, anyway,
But it's true
it still takes skill.
with the urinal idea. Like, what did it become art when I want to say Warhol, but that I don't know if that's right. Um, fuck, I gotta look it up now. Urinal guy. um, no, like, did it become art when he explained, oh, it's critiquing the idea of art and is thus art. Oh no, urinal guy is not what I should have searched.
Duchamp, you mean?
That sounds right.
Because I
Hold
just
on.
googled urinal art, and there's this
I
one that's like R Mutt 1917.
Yep,
And
yep.
it's just the
That's it.
urinal flipped on its back.
Yeah, so it's called Fountain. Was a ready-made sculpture produced by Marcel Duchamp in 1917. A porcelain urinal signed R. Mutt in April 1917. An ordinary piece of plumbing chosen by Duchamp was was for exhibition. The Society of Independent Artists, the inaugural exhibition. I really shouldn't be reading after like a day at work. There's your emptiness right there. By the society to be staged at. Well, this is not helping me at all. The work is regarded by art historians and theorists of the avant-garde as a major landmark in 20th century art. 16 replicas were commissioned. Doesn't matter to me. No.
Hmm.
So again, like, what was it? Was it art because it was intended to be art?
I don't know. I mean, like, see, my mind says, I mean, yeah, perhaps, but I mean, that's a gut reaction. I mean, I still have like that visceral knee jerk where it's like, it's a fucking, this is someone just put a urinal on a podium and it was like art. But at the same time, I could also be like, why did he put it there? Like, if the fact of like the absurdity of it could be begetting like different thoughts, different ideas. It could be, in the fact that like the facade of it being there, and it's simply like, I'm just trying to think of how to describe it. The unintended externality of it, of me just looking at it and being like, why the fuck did he take a urinal and put it on a podium? What's the importance of it? Is there an importance of it? How, like, and then you start almost like projecting this idea of like, maybe there is an importance of it. What is it? What is it? Start trying to figure it out, even if there's nothing there.
Note to self later, name video Unintentional Externality.
I mean, I mean, I do realize that now that I think about it, externalities are probably never intentional.
No, but like, if I read into something as art that wasn't intended to be art, I guess that is an unintentional externality to it.
It's like that image of someone who dropped a bunch of litter on the floor in a art gallery and everyone was just taking pictures of it because they thought it was an exhibit.
Well, and that is probably like the definitive example. Well, let's maybe bring it back to the subreddit that got us talking about this. Maybe you're on it right now?
Yep, I am on it and regretting every second.
Okay, pick out one, just kind of in like the top. I'm assuming you have it sorted by hot.
Yeah.
So let's both look at it at the same time. I'll put it on the screen in post. So maybe we can like, if we can critique it like art, it might become art.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these ones are a lot more direct. This isn't like a picture of a porta potty in a field or something. Mm-hmm. That's just like you're forced to analyze it. This is, I feel like there's not much to the imagination here to a degree. I don't know. Actually, we'll look into it as we go.
We'll pick one. Yeah.
We'll look for the ones that are OC for original content.
Oh, of course. Because I don't know. I feel like maybe there's one without words, because I feel like the words almost explains it.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I know. There's so many that do have words, though.
Maybe a few words are okay.
So, there's one, if you go down, there's one, and it's an OC, it's titled, well, the post is titled, "There's no Carpenter-style monster like our Overlord."
Hold on, I'm just gonna... Oh, no, I got it, okay. Okay, so I'm gonna save the image, just so I can refer to it in the video later. I'm just gonna name it Cat and fool myself. Okay, so obviously, eyes.
Eyes. I'm noting one. Well, it's. I think that's actually Garfield's head split in two. But see, my first thought when I saw that, I'm like, gee, that sure looks a lot like a set of fallopian tubes.
It does, actually.
I was like, but it's just Garfield's head split in two.
Well, it's a spherical organ attached by tubes to some other mass.
Insert general gonads descriptor here.
But it's safe to say that this is a Lovecraftian image.
I mean, like, yeah, it's certainly inspired by at least a... it's definitely going to be inspired by the monsters described by cosmic horror pioneer H.P. Lovecraft.
And there is a lot of and this is I've been wanting to bring this up. A lot of phallic and yonic imagery.
Is yonic just like
the female version of phallic?
I was like, I figured. I didn't. How do you spell that?
It literally just like YON. I see, like tonic with a Y.
That's weird. I thought it would
Yeah.
have been something like Gynic, something with a GY.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
So, like, there are a lot of yonic and
Also
phallic
insectoid.
imagery.
I'm noticing a pattern. Everything looks very insect-like. It's got lots of legs, weird little feelers, mounds of flesh that don't conform to any understandable school of biology or thought.
Yeah.
Which I suppose
very
was,
little symmetry.
Which, if you like, look back on not Carpenter. That's because that's in the title. If you look back on like H.P. Lovecraft's works, his whole concept of horror was based around scaring the living bejeebus out of you with things that you could not possibly understand, and that's the whole deal with cosmic horror. It's just that the universe is beyond your comprehension in a number of ways, and you are but less than a speck or less than an ant to these greater beasts that wander about.
Yeah, and that really defines cosmic horror, because like it's ironic that we depict a lot of these as bugs when we are to the bugs what these things are to us. Like,
yeah, we're
if you
titans.
if you had something of that relative size, like it would not be unfeasible that they would literally step on us.
Yeah, and see, the other thing I'm staring at this is like the fact that I can so clearly tell what it is.
Well, the face, you know?
I mean, it's the torn face. I can clearly tell that this is Garfield, whose face has been split in two and has like, well, I mean, Carpenter's probably referring to John Carpenter's The Thing, which is probably also where some of that insectoid appearance comes from.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, like this is the OG Carpenter style monster, our overlord.
And the thing I just like, if I'm going to, also relating to art, the skill involved, the fact that I can clearly interpret the depiction of this is a testament to, and like with detail, I can see the folds in the flesh. Wow, this is the weirdest thing I've ever had to describe. You can see the joints and the legs and the little pointy bits. You can almost imagine how those would like feel to the skin to a degree, and the fact that there's texture to it.
They're barbed.
You can clearly, there's a clear degree of like, I can't think of a good word, tangibleness to it, because it's
No, that sounds right. Like, because the bottom, like the tentacles at the bottom, they're dripping, obviously. So like it looks soft and wet to me. Like I get anime squishing noises in my head just looking at it. But like the legs feel like, again, they would be like exoskeleton. But like the soft bit above all the tentacles and below what looks like another branching arm, that's probably like Garfield's skin that has yet to be breached. Like this is a being in transformation. This isn't even his final form.
It's just like that's basically like The Thing. It's just like shape-shifting humans. So maybe it is in the midst of changing into something. Into what? Probably something that would scare the living bejeebus out of me. But you know,
I really wonder why Garfield, because we've been looking there. So that's the I'm Sorry John subreddit. We found the I'm Sorry Luigi and the I'm Sorry Gromit subreddits,
and also the less popular I'm Sorry Garfield. But
Garfield is like, is there yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
right,
it's where John's the greater being, or the ancient one in this case.
I wonder why that is, because like Mario is I think you could objectively say a more iconic cultural figure, especially now. But do you think that maybe because Garfield is just nostalgic enough to be like an obscure reference, but also like recent enough to be knowable? Like, do you think he falls in that kind of range?
I I think this is a solid question. Like, why Garfield? Why? And this is like, well, it's a question I ask for a lot of memes on the internet and stuff. Why Shrek? Why All Star? What happened? Why did people go for that? Is it because they remembered it a lot out of their childhood and they're just kind of like twisting these memories, or why?
You and I were 6 when Shrek came out, and obviously like aged with the series. I don't know when the last one came out, but like Shrek was in our cultural consciousness as soon as we began cultural consciousness, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyone really born between, say, the first Shrek movie and probably a little older than us had this kind of familiarity with Shrek. But then, well, you know what it probably was? Shrek is love.
Yeah, probably that. Like, but then another question is like, why?
Well, it could have been as simple as one guy made a video, and he happened to have Shrek textures for like his Gmod thing, and then it just caught on because we're talking what 2013, 2014 was Shrek is Love.
I then question like, yeah, I wonder if maybe like that Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life thing kind of started initially with someone making fun of fan fictions. I don't know. I feel like that's almost what it was.
It did very much feel like a parody. It was over the top. It was like grossly over sexualized.
Yeah, people making fun of like people who would do self-insert erotica fan fictions.
No, that is very true. So I googled the search trends for Shrek. They were much higher. Like Shrek searches peaked in May 2004. Like that was the highest. Oh, I'm just in the US. Maybe I should put this worldwide. And I think that's as far back as I can go. Yeah. Okay, so still May 2004 is like peak Shrek, which I'm assuming corresponded to one of the Shrek movies. There's another big peak in 2007, which again, probably a Shrek. Yeah, you know what? I think these peaks all come from all the Shrek movies, and then there's a secondary peak, November at the end of the year, which is probably when they're pushing like all the toys and stuff for Christmas. And so, because Shrek was the big film of the year or whatever, but it dies off over time. There is no discernible jump anywhere from 2013 to the present.
Yeah, so
maybe it's not responsible for that. I don't know. But Garfield, actually, maybe that's what I'll compare. Because Garfield feels like a more recent meme.
Yeah.
If I can spell it correctly.
Maybe I sometimes wonder also if maybe this just relates to the idea of people doing like just random humor, also random humor from ages back. That's kind of the original point of being random has been stripped from its bones, and the absurdity has now just become it's become a known phenomena.
Yeah,
it's randomness given form.
No, it's really the case. Like,
I don't know.
When I don't know, I really feel like I want to understand, but it's such a complex system. Like maybe just the fact that we have access to so much stuff that our consumption is inherently random, therefore our output is inherently random.
Yeah, perhaps. I could see that if it's just because we have access to so many different ideas that we can, well, all at once, especially with the internet, that you can almost mix and match them on the fly without even realizing it. Like, I mean, say you were on, like, you were doing, you're chatting with your friends and you were listening to the Shrek edition of Livin' Da Vida Loca.
Yeah.
And you just were like, hey, they don't know that I'm listening to anything or that I'm involved with anything Shrek right now. If I just brought Shrek up out of the blue in a humorous way, they're probably going to chuckle because I'm subverting their expectation to the nth degree.
Yeah, and maybe that's why we get this kind of Lovecraftian Garfield stuff, because
lol so random and it's just like,
well,
yeah.
It's lol so random taken to the point of absurdity. Like even 30, 40 years ago, any artist would only have very limited access to the whatever medium they partook in. Only so much radio they can listen to and CDs to buy or whatever. So like you could relatively well predict their artistic output. You know, like you're not going to see the blending of things that they probably were never exposed to. But we've reached such a saturation that like that someone can sit down and spend what I assume was hours drawing Lovecraftian Garfield, because why not?
Yeah. Because at that point it's like, yeah, the absurdity of this, of like a child, like, well, not a child's cartoon, but like a
it
shitty,
was kind of
like just a shitty newspaper cartoon strip that's just like the least dark thing ever, and I mix that with like, and you take that idea and make it into something like horrendous. Like, oh man, what if we take this chipper? I mean, you see that actually a lot now I think about it. Gritty. I mean, it's the essence of the gritty reboot, but that idea at the heart of it.
Yeah. Not to be lol so random, but remember 2012?
I mean, yeah.
Remember
Wait, the movie?
No, like the year.
Yeah.
Remember the cultural attitude, particularly in like pop music, of like, fuck it, we're all gonna die, like, let's party. And then the hangover from that, which I feel is best amplified in that simple meme. It's like 2012, oh my god, we're gonna die. 2016, are we doing this or what? So obviously, like, the whole 2012 thing, a lot of bullshit, but like, I feel like a lot of people, even though it was so ridiculous, even casually had to contemplate the end, you know, like just on a very superficial basis. And then when things started to get worse, which, I mean, kind of coincided roughly, and now we're in this world of, yep, that happened. Like, if our news media is getting lol so random, how could we not expect places like Tumblr and Reddit to not, like, fall into this, like, disintegration of media?
Yeah. See, I'm just thinking of, like, I guess my thought was more related to this, like, what's the word? I almost want to say, creepypasta in a degree, at least kind of relating to that. The idea of like a lot of the copy pasted horror stories were usually taking something benign and then making it, trying to like overdo it. And this, you can see this embodied. And you remember like Zalgo from like I want to say 2009. 2000
Zalgo.
Just
I just did, yeah.
Yeah, just Google it. So it was basically just a fad at the time, as what you would call it at the time, because the phrase "internet meme" was not thrown around very well.
Oh, good, a know your meme page.
Yeah, apparently it originally, like, it started, or at least so it says, around 2004.
Yeah,
there's an internet a legend about an. Yeah. It's just someone fucking around with things on July something awful. Oh, of course it's on Something Awful. That's where Slenderman started. That's where everything fucking started. Schmorky uploaded several modified versions of the syndicated comic series Nancy and Archie to his personal website, which included the word Zalgo in 2 comics in the series. On August 22nd, 2009, Schmorky explained the origin of Zalgo in a post on Something Awful forums, like how people who try to figure out the origin of the meme don't even know where it came from originally. I'll tell you where it came from. For me, I just made it up. Zalgo is something horrible. Zalgo is something that's coming. It's coming soon. It's just, this ethereal idea, right? It has nothing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Lovecraft. I'm not nerdy enough to make those kinds of references. Seeing it become a meme kind of killed doing further Zalgo edits in the future, for me anyway. But maybe I'll do one when you least expect it. So it was just like some dude.
Whoa, there's a Garfield
around.
Zalgo meme on the thing.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. So yeah, that really could be an origin point for this whole thing.
But I mean, yeah, it's just kind of like how the idea spreads and takes off, and it's that kind of idea of like taking something innocent and then just like making it horrible, because you can do that relatively easily, at least with the Zalgo edits that everyone ended up doing. You just like hollow out the eyes, add blood.
Yeah.
Bueno.
Do you think the fact that Garfield being a comic is, and the fact that a lot of memes are very comic frame like setup, like that just made it easy to make that jump?
I don't know, maybe.
Because a lot of memes, at least like when you and I would get home from school, go on Skype because Discord wasn't invented yet, and go on Cheeseburger, and we would go to the what the fuck section, and we would just like go back and forth, like talking about whatever was on there. That era of memery was very, very comic strip like. Like Rage Comics and whatnot. So I wonder if that's like, yeah, that just, it seems too coincidental to have not like influenced one another.
Yeah, because I know webcomics were a pretty common thing for the longest time. Heck.
That's crazy.
Or just
I don't know.
And then just people drawing shitty versions of things is another thing. It's weird. It's just like, I find it interesting. My favorite part about this whole thing is like, at least for the Zalgo thing, of like making Cthulhu Lovecraftian edits of things, or at least in terms of the Zalgo stuff. I love how the origin of it was just some dude who was just like, fuck it, I want to just make this terrifying, but I need a name to give it. I don't know. Zalgo.
Like, the original comic itself is weird, to say the least. Like, I'm not going to link it.
Oh, you mean the edited Archie ones?
Yeah, like that I'm not gonna propagate that. We might say fuck all the time on this podcast, but like, I have standards.
Oh yeah! Oh no! I'm like, I can hardly read it from this distance. I zoom in and I'm like, oh no!
Yeah, like that's just not necessary lol randomness.
I mean, that's also just.
Oh. Wow, so Zalgo created I'm sorry, John.
I mean, well, in the loosest sense, that is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably stuff before it that seemed to occur. Something awful seems to really be, and if I'm correct, it closed down ages ago.
I'm just on like the page about it. I'm not actually on the site.
What happened to Something Awful? Let me.
Did it get replaced by like B?
Oh no! It's still a thing.
You know what? Forum was never something I was very familiar with growing up. Like, you and I definitely lived through and had internet during the age of like forums being a very mainstream like mode of internet, but I never really partook. Yeah, there's a lot of sub forums. I don't know where
I remember
random stuff like this would come from.
Yeah. May chat. Sonic's a little goblin who lives in a hole filled with trash. Sorry. I sometimes wonder. I'm just like I'm looking through. I selected the games section of the Something Awful forums just to.
Right.
I was wondering how big was like the base of people that frequented this forum when it was like 2004 or 2000 whenever. Yeah, because like 2004, that's when all this was around. And I recall hearing that a lot of like Something Awful and 4chan are related by somehow. I can't remember how, but
yeah,
there was some.
Well, I just did a Google Trend search, and it.
Oh, there you go. That was it. Yeah, a forum member also launched 4chan. That's how it happened.
So it's like a cousin.
It's the father to a degree.
Whoa. Yeah, interest in Something Awful peaked in September of 2005 and then never, like, was a constant decline ever since. So yeah, like that 2004 to 2005 window where you had like Zalgo developing. Also, our country has had the most interest in Something Awful in the last 15 years.
Oh,
followed by Finland. That's I don't know, that's interesting. And I'm sure that's not per capita either. So, and I guess like Zalgo is art then?
I mean,
to wrap it around, like
yeah, actually. It's the art of making what's the word? Of making benign photos into horrifying visages.
So I think we've answered our central question. I'm sorry, John. Is an art subreddit?
I guess so. I don't know if we necessarily answered it, but I'm cool with that for now. I don't want to think about it for a while, you know?
Yeah, maybe we'll stay off the Reddits for a while. Just look at some normal Garfield comics.
I thought you were about to say look at some normal garbage. I mean, Sonic is a little goblin that lives in a trash can.
I don't know. Maybe we'll set this up for a future thing. But I think me, you, and Steven need to review the Sonic movie when it comes out.
I don't want to see it, Scott. I don't want to do that. There's only so much pain I can experience.
Okay, how about because I am told that we are seeing it opening day.
Oh God! I guess I need to do it then.
Yeah, this has been instituted on me. And then we'll get the three of us on a podcast because he is a renowned Sonic lore expert, and you and I we're used to this shit.
Yeah, I used to know a lot more about Sonic than I do now. I used to.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for today.
Yeah.
I kind of like that the best things that have come from us have been the stuff that we've like discussed hours before, and we're like, okay, we're doing it.
Go for it.
Because it's like whatever, we're gonna learn it.
John Art, yeah.
We're gonna learn it during the podcast.
I mean, that's kind of part of the fun is just learning things as you go. I mean,
yeah.
Also, to anyone watching this who is like an art major and actually knows and has studied lots of this stuff, I am so sorry.
We would love your feedback in the comments.
We would love it from someone who's actually studied and has, done actual work that we have not done.
Yeah, because we're about the definition of amateurs. Like that's
probably less than that. I would say armchair, but
yeah. Oh my God, we're armchair artists.
Or armchair art and analyzers, something like that. We're doing it for fun.
maybe we're armchair philosophers because, like,
Yeah.
we really did start with a central question and kind of worked our way up.